Уважаемые коллеги, прошу.
Dear colleagues, please take your seats. In the panel discussion and in the audience, we're starting a session which is dedicated to social treasury as a tool for better targeting and efficiency of social support measures. Olga Batalina, Deputy Director of Russia's National Council, responsible for social policy. Mr. Kadechnikov, Deputy Minister of Finances of the Russian Federation. Andrei Nikitin, Governor of the Novgorod region. Mikhail Osiyevsky, President of Rostelecom, the biggest telecommunication company, and Arseny Belenky, Народный Front, People's Front. So let's orient where we are. Before we vote and use our QR code, I remember when I was a young student, I had doubts. And my tutor in the university told me, you see, there used to be people, strange people. They worked with mechanics, and we could never expect that these strange things will be transformed into automobiles. And now I have to say you the same. I never expected that this concept could become something efficient and proactive. This platform is chosen correctly, and the speakers are really interesting. We have a social story behind us. Olga Batalina, as a deputy in State Duma, participated at the session dedicated to another project for electronic certificates and so on and so forth. She was a moderator. A leg passed to the Ministry of the Labor, and Mr. Kadechnikov joined the Ministry of Finances. So we could see the change into professional pool of the ministries, and now we're going to talk about social treasury as a tool of project implementation. Is the start going to be successful? And I invite the organizers to display the QR code. I invite you to vote. Are we ready to understand how the environment where we are should be changed? Are we happy with the environment we have? Please vote. Dear colleagues, we're talking about the first question. It is dedicated to the fact whether you are using this system. Second question, social sphere transformation. You connected to what? What are your associations? If you have already your first answer, let's display it. Let's see the statistics. I have to say abracadabra 1, 2, 3. Oh no, it works as it is. Everybody uses EPGU. It means that this is the portal of state services for citizens. So the vast majority is the answer number 1. So it's a good thing that we do have such a platform. You couldn't hear me. I will not repeat the first part. Mikhail Osiyevsky will give you more details about this state service portal. What's the trend? Advanced technology users use the technologies. We used to have a project for digital literacy for older people, and now I think that we need to create such a project for everybody. Second answer. So we expect higher speed in the future. It's too slow right now. Now, take a picture of the QR code. Look at the answers. That's the same link. How come that's the same link? Do not criticize me. Go and vote. Do I have answers for the second question? Okay, I understand that they will see the tips and vote accordingly. It's easy to criticize. Go and make it yourself. So, if everybody could join, please vote. The organizers, please display the question. 30 years ago, I joined a commercial bank, and the word plastic card was like a dream. I remember Credo Bank. It issued the first plastic card, and people thought Credo Bank will become a monopolist. Do you remember Credo Bank? No, it disappeared. What are we waiting for? Please display what we expect from the social treasury. Commodity, easy to use. So number one is easy to use. Second, speed. 3, justice. It needs to be explained to people. And number 5, client-centeredness. When we vote together with the Ministry of Finances, we will show them your results as well. I give the floor to Olga Batalina. She has vast experience. She used to be a State Duma deputy. She helped creating State Register of Handicapped People and many other projects. Dear colleagues, we launched many projects. Right now, we are working with the Ministry of Labor, and the name of the project is Social Treasury. When people hear it, they ask, is it about money? No, this is about people. It's about human beings. Why was this project important? I'll show you the first slide. If I can't manage, organizers, please help me. Oh, here it is. Our country has a very rich system of social support measures. It covers 80 million people. These are people with disability, elderly people, families with children. So we have demographic measures of support to foster childbirth. There are measures of support to increase the income of a family. There are targeted measures, a multitude of measures. If we decompose them, we will see that 350 categories exist. And if we come to the regions, and we will see that according to the region, these measures are even more various. But for a regular person, it's chaotic. Person may have a disability, may have a low income, and may have a family. And there are 3 directions, 3 categories. And according to these categories, this person has a measure of support. But in order to get this support, the person has to come to an office, collect documents here and there, and it's no surprise that the level of satisfaction of the citizens is rather low. What can we do? We need to change, we need to transform. First thing are the principles, how to transform. What are these principles? Equal access of the citizens to these support measures. So it means that we must not have regional differences. For example, people may live in towns and villages, they need to drive, they need to commute to the office. So, and if we compare to those who live in big cities, so it's uneven right now. It should be equally accessed. So, do we always help all who need help? No. We need to learn more about people we are to help. We need to understand what special needs she or he has. Because without social treasury, we have only the superficial layer of information, or whether the person needs or doesn't need support. Digitalization. So this will help increase user-friendliness. No more sending and resending paper documents between offices. It's been several years that we're saying that this paper flow should be organized differently. It is not ready yet. Of course, we created municipal centers of documents. It is easier now. We digitalized some kinds of information, and it allowed us to make another step forward. However, a vast number of measures, you can get them only if you come in person to the office with the paper documents presented. What are the conditions that we need to have? So if we have 30,000 different measures of support, it's chaotic. We need to categorize them. We need to apply certain standards in order to make it easier and more affordable. We need to create an infrastructure which will allow to implement all these digital resources. We need to synchronize all the digital resources which have information about a particular person. That will help. And then proactive analysis of life. So I have a picture. Stop. Do I have to finish my presentation? No, stop. It means that you have 3 minutes left. Digital transformation. This principle follows the principles that I enumerated previously. It will allow to work quicker, to present information by correspondence, and so on and so forth. Center of Digital Treasury, the Center of Digital Treasury is the digital platform created. It is based on the digital platforms within the pension fund of the Russian Federation. We have other platforms as well, medical support fund and others, and step by step we will synchronize all these data, and social support measures will be delivered accordingly to this synchronized platform. What should happen in the eyes of a person who gets support? Everything should be standardized. All the measures of support should be delivered in two options. Maybe a measure of support delivered proactively. What do I mean by that? According to the situation of this person, without any application to file. By the end of 2020, you see these measures. Maternity capital, for example. This is one of the first measures of support which works in a proactive measure, in a proactive way. You remember how it used to be, and you know how it is now. How did it used to be in 2009 when I got my first child? I had to go to the institutions in person. I took paper certificate, I took my passport, then I went to the pension fund, then I wrote an application by hand, paper application, and then they printed copies, the certificate of birth, they took my application, and then after 10 days I went back again to the pension fund and I received the certificate for maternity capital, and this paper remains at home. And now, how does it work? Probably I need to go and register my child. Yes, that's the only thing I need to do in person. But the authorities see that the child is born, and the authorities see that this child is not the first child in this family, and the system can see what measures of support we have the right to, and whether we have used our previous measures allotted. And I remind you that everybody needs to have his or her personal account in Gosuslugi website, state service website. In this portal, you can print the certificate, or probably you will never need paper certificate in the future, so you can get all the information needed in this portal. That's why we call this service proactive. We do not need to carry out a complex assessment of a person's life. A child is born, that's very easy, and because of this birth, we can allocate this payment to be paid. But there are other situations when a person needs to file an application. And this is not a proactive, this is the second block of our measures. So this kind of measures, I'll give you one example. If the person has children up to 7 years of age or 8 years old, these families have a right to get one-time payment for these children. And for that, a person has to file an application. 2 more payments follow this path. Payments for single parents and payments, allowances for single pregnant women. This process is going to be finished by the year 2024. Similar processes run in different regions of Russia. This will lead us to an efficient and targeted way of providing measures of support. Social Treasury is about people. Thank you for your attention.
Dear colleagues, certainly it's a very ambitious project, and I would like to give floor to our expert Vladimir Nazarov, who has gone through lots of ambitious projects. What do you think about it? Well, sorry, I broke a line, but I certainly would like to say that I entirely support this project. We believe that social treasury is the future of our social net, and without social treasury it would be quite impossible to reach the goal to decrease poor level of standards twice, as the president said. So no doubts, it is a must to carry out, and our colleagues in a very logical way implement it step by step. Certainly we would love to have it faster, but at the same time, I would like to say Olga Yurievna is quite right, saying that this system is about people, it's about transparency, it's about easy access, and so on and so forth. What would I like to dwell on is following. This system, apart from being absolutely fair, it shall be smart. What does it mean? I will explain you from my perspective. It shall contain informative and analytical blocks. In other words, the system has to aggregate information in a very fast way in order to have comprehensive information for each citizen, what allowances he is eligible or she is eligible for, and so on and so forth. That will allow us to focus poverty risks, responsibilities for such citizens, and as a next step, to eliminate those risks, to prevent them. So social problem doesn't exist, but we understand it's looming, and we do what we can in order to eliminate it. So I would like to recommend to my colleagues that this analytical block is integrated. It will be very easy for the users, and it will give us more comprehensive, more objective point of view. Well, thank you very much, dear colleagues. Such assessment is very important. You know, there are quite many platforms that discuss various initiatives, but part of such initiatives are being delayed, and some of them develop step by step. Olga set a very ambitious goal, and here we have another person who started as an agency of strategic initiatives, and today he's a governor. So, Andrei, I would like to give floor to you. Well, thank you very much. May I have the clicker, please? Well, thank you very much, Andrei. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Good morning. Well, the initiative of Social Treasury is among such things that are crucial for our life. When the idea comes up, we think, why didn't we have it before? Therefore, the Commission of the Russian Council of Federation certainly voted for that. Everybody said that it's absolutely crucial. We certainly need to integrate it. I would like to share with you some experience of how we started to implement it in our pilot region. So we have defined 3 social supports as pilot supports. All of them are at the federal level, so they have been settled by the federal laws, but implemented regionally. One of them is financed from the federal budget. I'm talking about compensation to disabled people of car insurance, and the two rest are financed by the region. Payment to families that have children from 3 to 7 years old. For Novgorod region, we're talking about 16,000 people that are eligible to get those payments. After a very thorough analysis of the client route, we saw that there are lots of paperwork processed manually, and employees of social support agencies have to submit requests, lots of requests, lots of time is wasted, and that time could be used for something more important things. So certainly, establishment of the social treasury, it will make it much easier to carry out the work of social agencies. It will be easy, it will be transparent, and it will make it possible to process all information in order to provide the citizens of Russia with the measures of social support. Certainly there are some questions we have to address and consider. In particular, mechanism of the distribution of financial flows and financial support. Social measures are financed both from federal and regional, sometimes from municipal budget as well. And the third level has to be taken into account. It has to be part of the system of social treasury, because there are some local supports carried out at the municipal level. At the first stage of the project, social treasure will cover 25,000 people. And in the future, if we talk about total number of citizens eligible for social net, the figure will be equal to 190,000 people. Again, I'm talking about federal, regional, and municipal support. Social effect that every third citizen will benefit from such easy processes. As my colleague said, if you get about 10 to 15 measures of social support from various resources, it means that you will never get them at the end, because paperwork is very, very difficult to process. And I quite agree with my colleagues, the system must be smart. It should analyze risks, it should be proactive, and we should understand that everybody might have a risk to not receive the support, and therefore we have to eliminate such situations. An example of such proactive agenda could be the social contract implemented by the Ministry of Trade. It's a measure that helps us to support people from getting into poverty. I can say that certainly we are going entirely support this initiative, and I'm very pleased to be part of it. Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade is doing enormous, great job. Thank you very much for your comments. Well, it's very nice to hear that the governor really supported the project. We have two regions, Tatarstan. I'm going to give you the floor, and we have a representative from the Kaluga region. Why do I want to give you the floor? Today we have drive, we have energy. Everybody has already reached some results. So could you give the mic to the Tatarstan region, because they really know what they want to achieve, and we would love to hear your experience. Well, good afternoon, dear colleagues. What was the question? You already have experience of innovation. You had a great Minister of Health, Elrad Zakevich, as Deputy Minister of Finance, and so on. You help people to build up careers, you track social roots. Are you ready for implementation of social treasury? And is it important for you? Well, certainly it's very important for our region. 2 months ago, we established a department of social treasury at the pension fund, and we are ready to be a pilot region. Very good. That sounds good. What about Kaluga? You actually helped us to create a social economic free zone and so on and so forth. How do you estimate the situation? Your governor is the head of the committee. Well, Kaluga entirely supports this project, and with the implementation of the payment to families with children of 1 to 7 years old, everybody understood it's very good initiative. And we implemented another initiative. We have adjusted it to our region, and I can say that it's a very proactive way. We do understand it's a very reliable system. When a mom submits an application to get a payment and gets the payments in a very fast time, that feels good. As Olga said in her presentation, it really is a great initiative. We are ready to try anything new. We vote for social treasury. So I'm very happy that this initiative actually is taking place. Well, dear organizers, those who are ready to take part in the pilot project, please prove it in a written way. Well, I'm very glad to hear that regions are ready to take part in the project. But we have to assess how efficient the initiative is. And we know that People's Front is the organization that carry out such estimations. So, as Vladimir Putin said, dear colleagues, in 2022 we have to transform most social net measures into, we should digitalize them. In your point of view, is there a demand for such for such a need of implementation social treasure? Well, thank you very much. Well, I would like to say that when we heard about this project, we were absolutely surprised, as it's enormous volume of work to be done. All those paperwork people have to go through, that established for many, many years. We know that paperwork in paper, this is our spot, our weak spot. This is a problem. All our citizens have to go through it. When I went to the business trip to Crimea, there was a person there who had a copy of a document how his grandfather got a land plot for being part of a project carried out in Crimea some 200 years ago. So we do understand that the human factor is a number one thing. I'll give you an example. Let's say a car of somebody has been stolen. Then it is found 8 years later in another region, and the car has to be there, is left there just because there are some mistakes in the paperwork, and it takes up to 8 years to sort out the problem. This is absolutely crazy. Therefore, I believe that social treasure is a great initiative, and I vote for it with my 2 hands. As for demand, we do lots of pollings every year. About 2 or 3 polls are carried out each week, and we always ask in the very first place about awareness of people regarding initiatives and support they might get. I can tell you that social treasure is going to solve this problem. People will know what support they're eligible for, and we won't just have to think about it in future. As for demand and the targeted approach, during the pandemic, we opened hotline for those who needed social support. I'm talking about material support, food banks, and so on and so forth. A lot of volunteers were involved in it. We could not establish the register at once. At the same time, many people asked for help. Many people needed support. And therefore, we could not stay aside. Another important thing is demand, a local demand. What do I mean by that? Very often when we make decisions, we need a municipal authorities to get responsibility for it. If we can solve this issue, I guarantee that payments will reach the end users much faster. That will help us to avoid, to decrease the paperwork, and payments will be done on time. So social treasure is a great thing. Out of my experience, I can say the following. It is very important to provide feedback. The fact of a payment, its amount, and so on, that has to be programmed in advance. We are the operator of the direct line with the President of Russian Federation. We cooperate with Rostelecom, and we get 1,300,000 calls each year. Then we track each call and we see what can be done in order to help those people. And this is a way of feedback we carry out. Another way of feedback, Instagram or personal account of governors and so on. I believe that Social Treasury could be another platform for tracking feedback. When automated and developed procedures give us a chance to help to everyone. That is the targeted approach, in my opinion. We shall be ready for the situation when legislation has to be modified, because there are so many regulations that face hurdles for a smooth process. So I believe that Social Treasury will help to simplify the procedures and measures will be implemented. So that will make our life much easier, both for us and for Russian citizens. And I would like to say to Olga, how many documents Social Security service has to collect before a payment is made. So how many documents do you have to collect before a payment is made? Well, it is very hard to give you a precise figure, but transformation of each payment is a challenge for us. When we had to implement support for socially deprived pregnant women, it seems easier. The question is, where could you get the information that the woman is pregnant? Digital. I'm talking about the digital proof, because it's ridiculous that a woman would come and say, I'm pregnant. So within a few days, together with the fund, Security Social Fund, we had to do enormous work in order to carry out that project. So I'm talking about introduction of electronic birth certificate. It has been in paper for decades. It was in paper for decades. So we had to make it electronic in order to exchange information with maternity houses. For each measure, there is lots of labor, lots of work standing behind. Another example, there was another payment for single parents that take care of children from 8 to 17 years old. And there is a requirement, a court decree for allocation of certain payments. Where could we take so many court decrees? You have to implement this payment 1 month later, but you don't have electronic data. You have to develop business process so that the pension fund, who is the operator of the payment, wouldn't require to provide this low code degree from each and every person. So social treasure does not mean digitalization of current business processes. I don't mean that you have to submit a paper electronically and then you have physically to go to the social service and bring all documents in paper. So we have to create new systems. We have to upgrade current information systems and so on. This is a very high quality service, very high quality channel for information. Arseniy, quite right you are. There are so many things. It's like a top of an iceberg, and the mechanism is extremely complicated, but we are going to facilitate in the future.
Thank you, dear colleagues. We gave the floor to the officials, and I would like to sum it up. Do we have Maria Negerniak from the High School of Economic? Question to you: are we ready to lay the right foundation? The answer is yes. Of course, from the point of view analytical and research and development, this situation is very important, and we are ready to support and to do what we can at the level of methodology and at the level of result assessment. Question: I graduated from the Moscow State University. I never thought that the Higher School of Economics would be a competitor of that university. But now we see how innovative Higher School of Economics is. I give the floor to Mr. Belenky. Thanks to you, we could buy diapers 4 years ago. Olga Batalina mentioned courts and legal ordinances in the case of child support payment. It's true. Ministry of the Labor surveys, monitors what payments need to be paid to courts, whether it is divorce, whether it is child support payment, etc. So I give you the floor to give more details. Dear friends, today we have announced what social treasury should look like for all of us. It should be quick, paperless, without needing to go to the authorities. That's true. It will look easy, but behind there will be a complex solution which covers many federal authorities, Ministry of the Labor, Fund of Social Insurance, and so on and so forth. All these institutions are animated by 100,000 people, so we need a system to organize such a project. Government asked Rostelecom to elaborate principles for this project. How can I switch slides? Answer: you should have the clicker. Rostelecom received this task. Why Rostelecom? Andrei asked us, the major telecommunication operator in Russia. But recently we transformed into a huge digital company which provides solutions for people, for companies, for the state. One of the major solutions includes Gosuslugi portal, state service portal, which is the main way of communication between the state and people. Behind that, there is a system of identification, and more than 80 million people are registered in this system. We have personal data in this system. And whatever we do, we need to confirm that this is us. What is more, we have a system of electronic document flow. This is like pipelines where documents flow between different institutions, not only governmental but private as well. In Rostelecom, we create such solutions. It's been 10 years so far. We learned a lot. We went through this long way, and now this portal is proactive. Every day, 1 million to 2.5 million services are provided by Gosuslugi service. The most popular service is take an appointment at the doctor's. Choosing us as the sole executive in this project was not a surprise. The government asked us to do so, and we worked together with Ministry of Labor. And our project answers several questions. First, what are the new processes while providing social measures? Second, what are the devices needed in order to make the system efficient? Third question, how will we implement it? In the framework of which software and hardware solutions? The project was prepared and confirmed by the government. The key element of this project is the contract recently signed. The project will be implemented in 3 phases. First, by 2023, second stage in 2024, and the third stage in 2025. Very serious project. It will need cooperation with different institutions. We will need to work with many documents, and it's a lot of work. As in any project, in our project we have goals formulated. Olga mentioned them. For people, the delay should be quicker. The number of services provided online, 24/7 work of the service, lower the number of reports needed, and other parameters. What's important to the state is to increase the efficiency of the project. We want to avoid manual labor. So our task is to lower manual work. The solution will be created with microservice infrastructure. So what I mean by that is that the solutions are very advanced and innovative for such kinds of systems. My colleagues mentioned already that these systems necessitate proactive approach. huge data processing, revealing life situations in order to allow a person, once he or she has the right for allowances, to get these services in due time. First experience was this summer. 15 million families with children we have, the families which have the right to get the allowance. The portal completed the report automatically and sent it to the families. So it's very easy when you only have to when the only thing you have to do is to confirm the bank account number. But I have to say, this is the result of a long way fulfilled. And this portal will change the quality of life of the Russians. Russia is a very advanced country, at least in the level of internet penetration. And I hope we will be able to solve all the problems. Question: how modest you are. Why Rostelecom? It's a big company. Second, all the speakers represent innovations. Imagine 15 million people file the same application. It's similar to lighting all light bulbs in the country simultaneously. Ministry for Digital Development approved the system and the work started. We used to receive criticism, but here we could implement a unique program. The state changes, but do you remember how we all started? Mikhail Anisimov, are you present? Take the microphone. Mikhail Anisimov will tell us about the start. And before that, I'll give you my opinion. There was a person who had to pay a fine for his car, and he started launching this service from there. Thank you for giving me the floor. I am a person who works in municipal federal center, and social treasury is a challenge for us. It is connected to the transformation of our network to suit the tasks set by social treasury. We collect documents, but there are other difficulties. There are elderly people who are in difficult situations and who cannot get into the digital system very quickly. We need to inform these people. We need to talk to them about the result and about how to work with the system. So there are employees who raise awareness about our system. They explain how it works and how helpful it is. It's also a challenge for us because we understand that the number of online services will diminish because the majority of services will be provided in a proactive way. It's true that every year we have more and more services, but there are situations when centers of competencies are overwhelmed. We need to connect different services and different institutions in order to create a logical chain of institutions in order to provide services. For us, it's a complex but common project. So let's hear it for the project. I remember I met Mr. Drozdov in Orenburg and we talked about this project. And there was a case. There was only one woman, but then the number of citizens increased. So imagine a bank comes to a conference, that's one thing. But now we expect a bank to be a sponsor of a conference. What about the banks? Banks do not only provide support, but banks also monitor what happens in the market. Rostelecom subdivided the huge waiting line into 4 categories. The project was efficient. 42 million people received their payments. And on the 2nd of September, the president ordered the payment, the allowance to be paid to those deserving it. It was rather complex. The charge was twice higher in the banks because banks had to send 20 million plastic cards. Now, it's not only about controlling, it's about a client-centered approach. And now I give the floor to the representative of the VTB Bank Group. Tell us about this competition. When school children receive their plastic cards, imagine some banks try to attract their clients by offering them extra 1,000 rubles, and some clients decided to go to new banks. So give us your opinion. How do you see all that? Answer. Dear friends, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to tell you that I am a representative of an organization which went through this digital transformation. There's a huge document called Concept of Social Treasury, and I read it, and I am pleased to see the level of digitalization demonstrated by the government. So it's a compliment. Of course, the majority of measures for social support are represented by money. In the documents that I read, I saw that there were no recommendations to the banks who will actually pay these allowances. And I suppose it's the right time and the right place here and now to hear the proposals by banks, what these recommendations should be. What I think it's a good topic of conversation. It's 2021. Financial and banking systems have accumulated enough wealth, and we see it possible to share this wealth with those in need. I'm not talking about environmental security, but also about human capital security. What do I mean by that? Social immunity of the money paid by the state. This subject has already been mentioned, but this was only about loans delivered by banks, but I suggest we see it in a larger way. There are measures of support for children, for families, for the military, for the retired persons. This money is paid for commissions, for other things. So the money is used not for the purpose it was designed for.
To have such products that are not associated with transaction expenditure, so there won't be commission for service of card, commissions for paying utility services, education, and so on and so forth. The next thing, which is also very important, is we know that there are lots of fraud, and it is very important for us to do our best in order to protect people's money from such fraud attempts. We recommended that such protection shall cover the retired people, elderly people, and all citizens in general. It is very important to know that banks have a very wide infrastructure system of client offices, of affiliates. In fact, the topic of accessibility is very relevant. We have about 20,000 branches, and we are ready to share our infrastructure in order to provide the social and state means of support that will help to facilitate to solve socially deprived people. And additional measures is the last thing I want to mention. We see ourselves as a bank that supports those who President wants have to be supported. When we actually supported our customers while paying childcare support payments, we added 1,000 rubles to the payments. So we spent 600 million rubles for that initiative. And we are going to do the same for the retired people. Everybody who will get the payments, retirement payments through our banks will get additional money. That's how we see the support we can provide for various social levels of the society. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Thank you. I don't know if we have any journalists here or not. Why RNKB? Because when we started to serve citizens in the island of Crimea, 4 banks, RNKB for bank, Sevmorput Bank of Russia, were the banks that started the operations there. And RNKB today is the leader in the Crimea market. Olga said that 300 million people in Crimea got money in via Sberbank, VTB, Почта России, and so on. Well, it proves that only in 400 cases we had to do a check regarding the accuracy of accounts, because sometimes some cards expire, and out of 30 million cards, only 400 cards needed check. I think it's a very positive sign. Sometimes we say, oh, we don't know what's going on in the future, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you when I came to Belgium as an employee of Sberbank, I was very impressed that 1,000 francs were devoted to each newborn. When our banks today say they are leaders of such processes, this is good. But we do understand, regardless the bank we are talking about, regardless whatever bank we mean, there are only two organizations as Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance, as the owner of all the money, have to estimate, assess this money. And before I give the floor to Pavel, I would like to share my point of view. Ministry of Finance is an organization where everybody applies to get the money. If we talk about banks, corporate organizations, corporations, and citizens come and apply and submit their applications. But with the Ministry of Finance, it's a different thing. We are talking about governmental organizations and so on. Space agency, social sphere, all possible organizations come apply to MinFin, and Ministry of Finance shall limit the way we spend the money. And today, Pavel, I would like to share with you your point of view. Do you think we need the project of Social Treasury, and are you ready to allocate any funds in order to implement it? Well, I can tell you the Ministry of Finance is going to benefit the most from this project. 2,564 million are allocated for social support of the Russian citizens. 28% of that, it's about 570 rubles, are used with the use of data on the income of the Russian citizens. If we compare these figures with figures in 2016, it was 1,300 billion. So we see a huge increase in the figures. And certainly, as a Ministry of Finance, we have to remember, is every ruble out of 2.3 billion is delivered to those who need support, families, moms, and so on. If we talk about pregnant bonus, that is in responsibility of the pension fund. If we talk about payments for the firstborn, she has to go to the social fund. The second fund, she has to go again to the pension fund. For the third child, the payment is paid as a subsidy, and she has to go to the social service agency. If we talk about child allowances, you have to go to one agency or another agency, depending on whether you have some work experience or not. So certainly, it has to be comprehensive, it has to be contemporary, so one application digitally submitted shall be enough. And I believe today we already have a very developed system, but we can facilitate it much and do it much better in future. An application is a very important thing. We have cases when state give you a special status as a hero of Russia, or you are a disabled person, and so on. If you have such a status, we have to allocate money accordingly. When we talk about socially deprived people, certainly there must be an application submitted. One application. And that's how the citizens say, this is my income, this is my ownership, what I have, but I need support. Then the state checks the data, and then it allocates the money. Another moment linked to technologies. We do understand that modern technologies change business processes and many ways of our life. How do we develop our budget? We do it together with the Ministry of Trade, with the Fund of Social Payments, and so on. The same goes when payments are to be made. We representatives of the state agencies have to collect number of documents. It shouldn't work like this in a modern society. It has to be done digitally. And this targeted model will have to adopt, because we live in 2021, and to collect so much paperwork doesn't make any sense. Another comprehensive assessment of the need. In 2020, we introduced a new payment from 3 to 7 years old, 20 million of recipients, 28 billions to be paid. Then when we tracked track a number of applications, so we paid money equal twice as much as we expected to pay. So this originally, out of 28, the regions paid 56 billion rubles. Then we tracked whether the payments went in the right hands or not. Everything was okay. So regions and the citizens say, the way you pay is not fair. Why not? Why? We take into account the income and so on. Then we track the details. I will give you a few examples in 2020. No income, no social payment, five apartments, a truck, and 5 cars, and so on. No income, an apartment, land plot, 4 trucks, heavy trucks. Do such people have to take a payment? Probably sometimes they might need the support. But as for our regular programs of support, these cases shall be excluded from the payments we deliver. And the initiative carried out this year made it possible to objectively estimate the situation of each and every family in order to track who is eligible for payment and who is not. And now we have 2 payments for pregnant women and single parents that have children from 8 to 18 years old. So therefore, we were able to support to those who really need support. We certainly upgrade our services. We have to adjust to current situation. We should understand who else might need our help. So this is a process that is evolving at all times. We have to tune our program to a current situation. If we have someone who has millions on accounts, who has bonds or other papers, perhaps such people do not need financial support at this very moment. And this is the social treasury. So in order to implement it successfully, we need technologies, organization, and information technologies. Such technologies banks have, and Rostelecom, Federal Tax Service, and pension fund as well. And certainly in our model, we see a platform to operate that will help us to estimate and analyze all the data, service of processing people's applications. We need people who work at municipal level, and also advanced payment system, and certainly our integration within the budget, into the budget. When we know how many people need to get payments, we can allocate the right amount of money. So, Andrei, we believe that the rollout of this system is expected in 2022, so I'm looking forward to seeing results. Well, thank you very much, dear colleagues. I can only say that just before I give floor to Lydia Ovchar, who takes part in all social forums and all social meetings, in strategies, I can only say that Ministry of Finance helps to social sphere in 2 ways. They develop social sphere, and you do not Pavel gave a very good example of increasing social payments twice as much, and he showed us what criteria we should use in order to distribute fairly the money. Those who are in need shall have the money, not those who have everything and get some additional payments. So it would be very right to put additional burden to the government. Therefore, I would like to suggest to give thunderous applause to Ministry of Finance, a very human approach indeed you use. And I would like to give the floor to Yelena, who came up with such a term and social...
Очень трудно.
Well, dear colleagues, it is very difficult to not lag behind from the Ministry of Finance. I can tell you that I really participate in lots of forums devoted to social topics, and I asked myself, what is the similar between all the forums? And my brain said it looks like a wedding reception that proves very good solutions, that fixes very good solutions. We've been talking about moms, about families, and now it is high time to talk about the following thing. Well, any grandma, I would say, is very interested in finding a good kindergarten or school for the good school children. We know that about 30% of marriages split later. So we want that anyways children from divorced families live happy lives. When this project came up, the question was, why did we never think about it before? And when you go through a number of stages, Pavel said, you come to a need to make a very difficult decision. And it is very important to overcome hurdles you face and not to lose your steam. I quite agree with Pavel, who says that the first risk is associated with the criteria we have to use in order to deliver our payments. If we talk about maternity payment, this is quite easy. It's easy for us to prove the fact of the birth. Even though there are some complicated cases when a child is born on the border with Ukraine, let's say, then the mother goes to the Rostov region, and then it turns out that the mom gave birth to a child who is not, but the child is not available for the family fund as family payment, as the mother has a Ukrainian citizenship. Well, we know why there are such contradictions in processing information, which Pavel mentioned. We know that about 30% of all income, of all profits of families is in the gray zone. When you say to someone, you are not in the white sector of economy and you are not eligible for the payment, people respond, and where are our jobs? Provide us with work, and we will work in the white zone. So that is the second risk that has to be considered, because one of the contacts, one of the tracks that helps to maintain collaboration between the people and the state are social support measures. And social treasure, and I call myself as an ambassador of social treasure. I can tell you that the public attorney shall be within the system, shall exist within the operate within the system, so that those who get an automated answer from a bot, we talk about smart system. We need to use artificial intelligence at a very high level, but it should have some human components. I don't know how to teach bots to be human, but we'll have to think it over. Well, thank you very much to Anatoly Pichatnikov in particular, because the story of the bank payments that are free from bank commissions is a very important story indeed. For the first time, I hear that it is banks' initiatives. We know that commissions are quite high today, whether we talk about payments in supermarkets or mortgage service, and so on. But that's questions that are raised in people's minds. So if there are social payments free of commissions, that will be one of the most important achievements.
Thank you for this presentation, Maria Nigierniak. I remember some people that our friends, they went from Germany to France. They are Russian, and then they were asked, how come that you're a social worker but you celebrate New Year in Paris? So that was an example of the past. So today I would like to mention the position that Lilia Nikolaevna indicated, this association with the wedding, with childbirth. So the system should organize a platform for development of so it should be the smallest unit of the country. So look at the project, Digital Eurozes. Mr. Pudov, the secretary at the Ministry of Labor, he asks, what amendments do we have to make in the agreements signed with different countries? So there are people who come to us from different countries because they have had an accident in their country. But now we need to pass to a quicker way, to online applications. Mr. Katyukov will said on Monday that the payments should be paid, and on Friday people started receiving these payments. So we all feel innovations. We have 7 minutes to go, and what I suggest we do, during 1 minute, motivate us. Give us your final remarks. Yes, you're right. We started a great project. We need to continue. We need to end it successfully. It's like a marriage. And we need to have parents-in-law. We need to have a wife's friend in order to get feedback and in order to integrate everything. My colleagues from the Ministry of Finance said that we can plan expenses more, plan better. And this is how we will all be able to plan our expenses and revenue. colleagues from banks contributed a lot. It was a pleasure to hear what you said. Usually, the payments are processed in rubles, but imagine if we set a certain goal to which this money may be spent, the utility of this money may lower. So let's reconsider that aspect. And the rest, I appreciate it a lot. Now, Mikhail, as we saw from our experience of implementing large-scale projects, we saw that it's very important to target strategic goals, and we need to learn to see new opportunities. We need to be able to adapt, to adjust. And this is not only within the framework of legislation, but also this is something to come. And I would like to invite you to be flexible and to find tools for that. We are all standing for the wealth, the well-being, and we are sure that your project will help people to overcome their difficulties, and we support you. So the most important is to meet deadlines. Andrei Nikitin. In order to solve any problem, you need to measure it first. You need to describe it. Today the state spends a lot of money for social support. However, if we look at the number of measures at federal and regional levels, so the number of measures is not very high. If we can measure the problem, we will see how much money we spend. And we will be able to redirect the money to those who really need this support. And finally, our country will become a country of opportunities for any category of citizens. We have two requests. Fairness in the allowance distribution. Second request, control and monitoring and integration with the budget. So we are waiting for a breakthrough in 2022. Olga Batalina, I come back to people. Social Treasury is for people. Of course, the control is needed, monitoring is needed, but I'll mention 3 milestones. Arseny said, we expect information from the Social Treasury. Yes, you're right. People used to come in person, bringing their applications. They were 2.7 to come and ask. And now, when the procedure can be done online, there are 4.7 million people who came to receive this service. We have a new option. Once you have a situation in your life, you inform the portal, and in 2021 you receive all the allowances which are applicable. In 2024 there will be 11 situations. Now it is like childbirth, second childbirth. So In 2024, there will be 11 situations for which you can get allowances. So the system is developing. There are things to improve, but what I want to say is that this project is about helping people through one single center. Second thing is that client services will not disappear. People think that the system excludes people, but this is not true. 43 million retired people. Among them, 11 million retirees receive their pension coming to the service and receiving the money in person. There's always client service where people work. People will explain why you were refused and so on and so forth. So the humans will remain in the sphere. Third point, social treasury and digitalization. May it lead to shortening the number of personnel? The answer is no. We will liberate our personnel from routine work, but we will enable other jobs. The jobs will remain the ones which may only be provided by humans to humans. And I hope to get support from the Ministry of Finances. What I'm talking about is not only cutting jobs, but I'm not talking about cutting jobs, but about redistribution of forces. Thank you for your attention. Dear speakers, dear participants, our session is over. We cannot organize a question and answer session now. We will see you again next year. But before we give a round of applause, let's remember how deaf people applaud. Let's do the following. Let's applaud as non-hearing people do. It's very impressive. Thank you for your attention. Our session is over. See you next year.